and good afternoon to all of you. I will be covering the navigation and war fighting at sea under a number of topics which may appear unconnected, but I will like to go through that. And I have structured the talk today based upon certain aspects of knowledge and capability domains which constitute main anchors of the formidable Blue Water Navy. May I request you all to bear with me as I proceed, as at places subject dealt with may appear unconnected but will definitely enhance the perspective of the learned audience and present an exquisite overarching mosaic on completion. Due to paucity of time, I would be discussing only certain aspects of the two critical domains which have relevance to this seminar and the guidelines assigned to me. All the topics being discussed in this talk have at their very core precise geographical coordinates which in turn become navigation coordinates essential for professional domain awareness and war fighting at sea. Marine navigation blends both science and art. A good navigator constantly thinks strategically, operationally and tactically. He plans each voyage carefully. As it proceeds, he gathers navigational information from a variety of sources, evaluates this information and determines his ship's position. He then compares that position with his voyage plan, his operational commitments and his predetermined dead reckoning position. A good navigator anticipates dangerous situations well before they arise and always stays ahead of the ship. He is ready for navigational emergencies at any time. He is increasingly a manager of variety of resources, electronic, mechanical and human. Navigation methods and techniques vary with type of vessel, the conditions and navigator's experience. The navigator uses the methods and techniques best suited to the vessel, its equipment and the conditions at hand. Methods of navigation have changed throughout history. New methods often enhance the mariner's ability to complete his voyage safely and expeditiously and make his job easier. One of the most important judgments the navigator must make involves choosing the best methods to use. Each method or type has advantages and disadvantages, while none is effective in all situations. Commonly recognized types of navigation methods are on the screen. In practice, a navigator synthesizes different methodologies into a single integrated system. He never feels comfortable utilizing only one method when others are also available. Each method has disadvantages and advantages. The navigator must choose methods appropriate to each situation and never rely completely on only one system. With the advent of automated position fixing and electronic charts, modern navigation is almost completely an electronic process. The mariner is constantly tempted to rely solely on electronic systems, but electronic navigation systems are always subject to failure, and professional mariner must never forget that the safety of a ship and crew may depend on skills that differ little from those practiced generations ago. Proficiency in conventional piloting and celestial navigation remains essential. The GPS is not a perfect system. There are several different types of errors that can occur when uses GPS receiver. Some of them are placed on the screen. Some more. We now come to a very significant aspect of selective availability, which is the intentional degradation, that is limiting of accuracy of satellite signals of the GPS system by the US Department of Defense for security reasons. At this time, there is no selective availability in force. However, it can be reactivated without notice to GPS users. Correction systems like real-time differential GPS employ a second stationary GPS receiver at a precisely measured spot, usually established through traditional survey methods. This receiver corrects or reduces errors found in the GPS signals, including atmospheric distortion, orbital anomalies and other errors. Even though global positioning system provides the most accurate position available to navigators today, it is also clear that the most accurate positioning information is available only to the US and the allied military. The enlightened audience would readily conclude that with uncertainties in accuracy of the position of the warships, modern weapon systems used by them have to resort to multiple position fixing systems to achieve their target kill. Modern naval strategy is fundamentally based on various means to locate potential enemy forces across the oceans. A problem complicated by the vastness of the maritime environment, the huge number of legitimate users, and the wide variety of means by which an enemy can exploit the oceans to his advantage. The oceans are complex mediums whose nature provides ample opportunity for an enemy to avoid detection. Weather, sea states, and coastal land masses all present considerable challenges to modern sensors. Peacetime economic use of seas complicates this problem enormously. The oceans are the world's foremost and most unregulated highway, home to a vast and wide variety of international neutral shipping that poses no apparent threat. Maritime events that could potentially affect India are not the only wide-ranging element of MDA. It is also essential that threats be identified as early and as far away from the coast as possible. MDA must therefore be exercised over all oceans worldwide and potentially cover all maritime interests that ultimately impact India. Although many factors are considered in MDA, its core process is ultimately monitoring of vessels and vessels, cargo, crews, passengers to rapidly generate geolocating information on vessels of interest. Fundamental to this is the detection, monitoring, tracking of vessels. This tracking process is comprised of 5 elements designed to focus on a narrow area of tactical dimension, where threats can be identified, isolated, and namely maritime surveillance, detection, tracking, classification, identification, and targeting. Targeting involves interpreting detection and identification information fused with intelligence to sort vessel intentions and determine risk. In order to derive a comprehensive MDA picture, information needs to be fused, correlated and analyzed, and for it to be relevant to national security, it must be designed to operate cohesively at tactical, regional and strategic levels. 2 areas of sensor technologies that have particular applicability to strategic MDA are a satellite-based sensing capability and a network of underwater surveillance sensors. The 26/11 attack on Mumbai has been analyzed and security gaps addressed to formulate the MDA. The fundamental principle for the MDA has been the application of data fusing to get actionable intelligence inputs to measure, compare, identify, engage and prevent seaborne criminal activities. The number of different agencies at central and state level involved is 13, and therefore effective coordination is an issue. Some of the initiatives are on the screen. The Government of India has thus put in place a formidable plan for MDA, and the individual systems are being set up prior to final integration and fusing of data. It is expected that the MDA would be fully functional by 2015. However, in near future, in my considered opinion, it can be presumed that Indian Navy would aspire to acquire a formidable sea denial and sea control capabilities. It is opined that the terms of sea watch, denial control are likely to expand and transform to oceanic space watch, denial and control. The term oceanic space denial control would embrace a cylindrical space in 3D plus dimensions, that is the sea surface, the atmospheric volume above, the outer surface at least up to LEOS heights, the water volume up to the seabed itself, and also security of the deep sea mining assets in the EEZ. The above premise implies that a broader oceanic horizon is in fact inclusive of not only extensive and broader spatial operating arena, but also much wider and broader foray into the verticals below to the surface of the seabed and above up to the periphery of the atmosphere. Therefore, it is imperative that holistic perspective into the information consciousness arena include the oceanic domain awareness as well as its connect with the India's security and MDA. Technologies must be developed to enhance data collection in all weather conditions to support high spatial resolution and near real-time forecasting throughout the open ocean and coastal zone. Providing accurate and comprehensive environmental information will require expanding observational networks to monitor, record and present real-time surface monitoring data, for example, high-frequency coastal-based radars. This expansion will require advancing sensor and technology development, particularly for autonomous and persistent observations, as well as for long-term observation systems, expanding real-time or near real-time data collection on environmental variables by incorporating observational capabilities of ships of opportunity and enhancing automated and autonomous bottom mapping capabilities for change detection to improve rapid full-scale survey scheduling. To state in a few words, MDA focuses upon the maritime security environment specific to naval operations. The ODA focuses upon the overarching oceanic environment. Both are technology intensive and require sophisticated sensors and computational abilities. MDA has tactical, regional and strategic components, whereas ODA is a strategic knowledge-based architecture. Both require elaborate sensors, data and information fusing interface with a myriad of interconnected agencies. The MDA primarily needing vast inputs from commercial intelligence and security agencies, and the ODA from advanced research, academic and scientific communities. In view of the above discussion, it can be surmised that MDA needs to be integrated within oceanic domain awareness for completeness of maritime knowledge, the lack of which can lead to serious consequences. MS-370 could not be located in the air, on the surface or even at the bottom of the sea till today. India's EEZ comprises of 2.1 million square kilometers along and around its coastline of 7,500 kilometers. Further, India is likely to gain 1.5 million square kilometers of EEZ, as it has placed survey details pertaining to extent of continental shelf before the ISBA. The continental shelf area of India is approximately 380,000 square kilometers, and the shelf area of Andaman and Nicobar Island is 30,000 square kilometers. This implies that more than 75% of our EEZ lies beyond the depth of 200 meters. On the western coast of Maharashtra, the shelf extends to 180 nautical miles, whereas the eastern coast is much narrower. Major issues relating to maritime security in Indian Ocean range from security of the energy arteries to piracy, drug and human trafficking, illegal fishing, gun running, environmental issues and terrorism. However, the aim here is to emphasize upon the seabed mineral resources, which have been less talked about in the media, and to bring out gaps in the comprehensive security of the Indian EEZ. Indian agencies had carried out reconnaissance mapping of 85.7% of the offshore area within the territorial waters and 98% of the seabed within EEZ as of March 2011. The GSI has till date surveyed approximately 18.5 lakh square kilometers out of 18.64 square kilometers in the EEZ beyond the territorial waters. It has surveyed 19.76 lakh square kilometers out of a total of 20.14 lakh square kilometers. A summary of the mineral deposit findings is placed on the screen. Two essential components of effective EEZ security management comprise of surveillance and deterrence. Some of the drawbacks of EEZ surveillance systems in use today include inability of patrol boats to carry out surveillance since their missions are area denial, SAR or interdiction. UAVs have much better sensor packages but need a large infrastructure for 24/7 surveillance. HF radars are affordable but need a very large area for installation. Microwave radars suffer from limited horizon and patrol aircraft incur huge costs. Since radars have difficulty in automatically identifying unknown and devious small vessels and electro-optic systems are heavily weather dependent, there is a requirement for add-on sensors to carry out effective monitoring of EEZ. In fact, a complete EEZ surveillance system would be able to cater to all facets of EEZ activity, be it terrorism, drug and human trafficking, piracy, smuggling, coastal security, search and rescue, sea traffic control, pollution control, illegal fishing, illegal arms supply and exploitation of natural resources of solar, air, wave, minerals, oil and gas. For such an extensive requirement, a cooperative, synergetic and system of systems approach between various agencies involved would be paramount. The surveillance platforms could include the conflicts in the EEZ are definitely going to be unconventional and it could be difficult to distinguish the adversary from the neutrals or friendly vessels. This may lead to conflicts where use of lethal weapons may not be permissible. Non-lethal weapons would enable options for de-escalation of conflict, avoid irretrievable consequences of using lethal options, and result in deterring activity without loss of lives and damage to material. However, to ensure a calibrated approach across the spectrum of conflict, there is also a need for non-lethal weapons to be doctrinally integrated with the regular naval forces to enable them to tackle a developing situation in the EEZ. Whereas there are various options for use of non-lethal weapons on the surface, not much has been reported as far as underwater non-lethal weapons are concerned. It may be desirable, therefore, to task the development agencies in the civilian domain to develop them, since NLWs may not strictly come under the purview of the DRDO. Non-lethal weapon designs based on acoustic pulses, ultrasonics, water shots, and very low explosive content weapons can be thought of. A littoral zone can be defined as a zone that is contiguous to land in large water body like sea, river, or a lake. In coastal areas, it defines a zone between high water mark and beginning of the permanently submerged area. Further, coastal domain is defined as 200 meter above to 200 meter below sea level. This domain covers an area where about 25% of global productivity occurs, 60% of global population resides, and 11 of the 14 mega cities in the world are located. Indian coastline extends over 7,500 kilometers and has about 250 million people staying within 50 kilometers of the coast. The littoral focus has very interesting characteristics and connotations for blue water naval fleets planned for standoff operation on open seas. Three of the fundamental parameters which have adverse effect on war fighting in littorals are discussed hereafter. The littoral natural environment is subject to wide variations both in atmospheric and oceanographic domain. The sensor modeling and simulation technologies have not matured enough to provide reliable predictions for real-time operations. Neither is an archival database available for all the littorals where blue water navies may be required to operate. Presently, complex dynamics of underwater beach and shore conditions generating the resultant environment are not clearly understood, leading to levels of uncertainty which threaten the success of missions in the littorals. The littorals are regions with restricted depths which prevent blue water naval combatants with greater draft to operate. It also restricts severely maneuvering of ships in formations. Thus, the Blue Water Navy has to redefine its conduct of operations from the wide expanse of the oceans to constricted and or partially choked contortions available in the littorals. The littorals are teeming with fishing boats, which reduces the time allowed to the commander for decision making. It is apparent that the littorals present a deficit in environment knowledge due to environment constriction of maneuvering space and shrinking of time. The prominent gaps in Indian defences are placed on the screen. In conclusion, I have discussed specific issues both in knowledge and capability domains. These issues are direct relevance to the theme of the seminar, as a naval operational environment mandates accuracies in geographical coordinates, which in turn leads to correct navigation in the vast expanse of the ocean. Related to this is the truthful information from the deployed sensors and subsequent attack on targets. The talk has also brought out the imperatives in security and defense of India's EEZ and littorals, which need to be addressed at policy levels. Thank you for your patience and Jai Hind.